I told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for. Don't run from nothing, dog. Get your soul. Just tell them I ain't laying low. You was never really rooting for me anyway. When I'm making at the top, I wanna hear you say, don't run from nothing, dog. Get your soul. Just tell them that they praise more.
I can't even. Like, they hurt. Here we go, ready. Oh. Crack open a cold one. I honestly haven't had a Celsius since last Monday.
I had one yesterday.
I hardly ever drink them, but I feel like the days that I definitely need them are on Mondays because it's so fast-paced throughout the day, and I'm like, oh.
Were you awake with that storm?
No. They talked about it at church, and I was like, wait, there was a storm? And then I remember our tomato plant fell over.
Yeah, I'm glad that there wasn't 100-mile-an-hour winds, because...
But then, did you feel the wind yesterday? Dude. It was like, Boston was like having a hard time catching his breath. It was like, kept blowing in his face.
I woke up from it. Or, before it started, I woke up. And then I got the alert, and it was like, severe weather with 90-mile-an-hour winds. And I was like,
Perfect.
I'm getting up.
Yeah, but you're like a weather...
Well, yeah, I don't want to be asleep and a tornado come and get me.
True. I think at that point your phone would be like... Brr,
It didn't make noise when that went up off.
Really?
Really?
See, that's so weird. Okay, so speaking of that, this is so random and has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. But in the Shiny Happy People, she said that Amy's mom would have to call Jim, Bob, and Michelle to let them know that there was a tornado warning because they wouldn't watch it on TV.
Oh, at that point, just let them go.
Oh, okay. Well, good morning. My Adderall's kicked in, but the caffeine has not, so I can still feel it, like, in my eyes. Like, I'm, like, tired. But today, we're going to talk about kind of who we are outside of the salon and, like, what makes us us outside of the salon. And also...
So, outside of the salon, we morph into one person.
Yeah.
And then we just...
Yeah.
We're just one person, and we go on about our day. Nothing's different.
Yeah, nothing's different. I actually think that our home life is what defines us most as being individuals.
Yeah.
Just because, like, obviously I'm not married to Chase, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you have your, like, things, and then I have my things, and we're just, like, totally different people outside of business that I think it's...
Well, if we didn't, I think we'd be dead.
Yep. I cannot wait for us to... We've come to the conclusion... I've made the executive decision that this will happen one day. We are going to get, like, 10 acres.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
saw that.
Updated Chase on that.
Oh, okay.
And he was for it. Do you know how... There's an ad. You know how I was saying, like, he wanted to live in a neighborhood when we have kids? I mean,
yeah.
We do live in a neighborhood, but... Like, he's like, when our kids are old enough to, like, have friends and play and all that, he wants to still live in a neighborhood for that reason. And then I was like, okay, I know you want to do this, but Alex and I have been talking, and this is what we want to do. And then they can have a little warehouse thing for their C3 electric right in the middle. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I think that's a good idea.
It, like, honestly, like, gives me... Because, like... family and like get-togethers and like just like having that time together is like something that just like warms my heart, and like big family get-togethers, I just love it. So like literally living that life every day. I know that that's like sounds like not real, right?
Well, that's why I sent that
I know,
TikTok
like,
to
that's
you.
like, man. So it was, the TikTok was like this family of like what, like it would be like 4 brothers and sisters with all of their kids, and then the in-laws on every side lived on like 20 acres with like homestead stuff, you know? And I'm like, dude, that sounds like living the dream. But like I honestly like kind of got icked out at the fact like we could live out and like...
Sorry, there's a gnat and it's trying to get in my mouth.
It's trying to get your Celsius. That's what it wants. Just like take a little bit of it and like dab it on the table.
Nasty.
So, like, yeah. That's how you know I have a lot. I'm just kidding. Got rid of them all last night. We have that bug spray or the salt. Have you seen those? The salt guns
Oh, yeah.
that get rid of flies.
Yeah.
So
need
I
one.
literally have to vacuum like every day because there's salt everywhere. But like I think fly spotters are so gross. So
I just whack it with a wet towel.
oh, that's an idea. I could do that.
Anyways, the video.
What's it? What are they? Convent? Is it convent? No, it's not convent.
I would just say
Compound. That's the
Yeah.
word. Compound. So yeah, we were like, I was telling Chance about it. I was like, yeah, I just want to like buy like 10 acres and like Lexi want to live on one side and we live on the other and like our kids can like be the bestest of friends and like, you know, I grew up with my cousins and like I didn't know any different, you know, so like I think that, and we all lived within the same like 1 mile radius. Like my Mimi's house was like central location and then my aunt and then my dad lived off of that, and like it was so nice to just be able to like, oh, I'm going over to Katie's house, and like I walked over to her house, you know, stopping for a bite to eat at Mimi's, you know, like it was so nice to be able to do that, and it kind of makes me emotional thinking about our kids being able to do that. But
Chase was like, yeah, we'll all have golf carts and we'll just drive over to each other's houses. I was like, awesome. He did say one thing that he will not do is get farm animals. He said, I might be Farmer Mitchell, but I'm not Farmer Mitchell.
damn,
It's like,
I think maybe he might be against it, like, or he might be for it one day.
I don't know. That was one thing he was like, I'm not. Because I
I
was like, we
literally-
can get goats and horses. He was like, no, we can get corgis.
Okay, yeah, corgis are farm animals, bro.
They are. They'll herd the cows.
Yeah, and so are my other Charlie. Charlie will ride on the golf
Charlie,
cart.
I'm sorry, but he might be gone by then.
Yeah. So,
He's
I
old.
was eating chicken last night, and I was like, I want to just like buy a whole chicken, like go to a butcher and just get a whole chicken, like buy a whole chicken and have access to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which, granted, it's not as much meat as like you would get on a whole cow, but obviously. But I like the idea of like knowing where my chicken came from. I mean, we live in Tyson.
Eggs.
Yes. See, but chicken, they're gross.
Yeah, I know. So maybe we couldn't have chickens. The like big, what are they? They're the big chicken houses. Yeah, those are hella expensive.
No, I don't want that many chickens.
Okay.
I'm saying like maybe like 10 to 12
And like a little
in a
but
chicken
then,
coop.
I've seen like on TikTok, like you have to hawks or something. They'll come and get them, or like coyotes.
Okay.
You have to like go hit pans together. Get away!
Maddie has some chickens that they've had for a really long time, and Boston just like loves walking out there and just like, nah, like he loves it.
He's like the Despicable Me minions.
He literally is the definition of a minion. So that kind of like goes into, I feel like we could say this is a 2-part series, because this is a big part of who we are, and kind of like,
Natural minded.
yeah, conscious, natural minded. So I guess we can just kind of go in. I want to like teach people how to be more like mindful of what they're putting into their bodies, right?
Yeah.
As we sit here and drink a cold Celsius, you know, it's like the same amount of what's the word? What is that word? The word
This is not natural.
but it's better than a Red Bull.
Yeah, it might say, I mean, it's gluten-free, it's non-GMO, it's certified vegan, but this is probably one of the definitions of greenwashing.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a big one. I think, like, that's kind of, yes, I'm glad you said that, because that's my goal in this series, I guess you could say. Like, teaching people to just know when people are trying to take advantage of you, and like knowing how to do the research for yourself to know whether or not that truly is greenwashing, or it truly is, you know, not as good for you or whatever. But I wanted to start it out with who we are outside of the salon, so you can kind of get an idea for like how we live our everyday life. So, you know, because living like this is not complicated. In fact, I feel like it's much more simple once you get used to it. And you feel so much better about yourself. I feel like, at least that's what the goal that I've come up with. But I guess Lexi.
Yeah, I was like, mine will probably be a little shorter, but
yeah. Well, you don't have kids yet, and that's like a huge thing for me in my journey.
Right. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with my mom's always been kind of like that. Like, I feel like it's gotten more vamped up, or I'm not gonna say worse because it's not bad. It's just gotten more the older that I've gotten, the older she's gotten, the more we've researched things and just realized things.
And to be fair, like, I want to put like disclaimer, like, we do not like anybody that doesn't view life the same way that we do, because we see so many people every day.
Yeah.
And
we're not like, if you don't live your life like this, we don't care.
Right.
Like, we want you to better your life or put good things in your body, but it doesn't. This is just how we do it. It makes us feel good.
Right.
And this is our opinion.
But also, like, the one thing that we will not talk about, we've already drawn the line at talking about it, is COVID. But the one thing I will say about it is that I feel like for your mom, for me, for a lot of people, COVID, the sickness, and COVID, the vaccine, has definitely made people be more aware of things. And
2020
has
opened everybody's eyes.
Yeah.
But we're not really going to talk about COVID. It's just still fresh.
Well, and also, like, this goes so much deeper for us than just COVID.
Right.
So, like, taking COVID out of the equation, like, it just goes so much deeper for us. Yeah.
But, so, yeah, just like growing up, I'm an only child, if you don't know. She's always been very conscious of, like, what she puts in her body. So we've always eaten pretty clean. I mean, we still get processed stuff, but just, like, she's been gluten-free for 10 plus years. I don't remember when she hasn't been gluten-free, honestly. But yeah, so, like, I knew about just, like, we'd go to the farmer's market, and we would, you know, my Mima and Poppy had a garden, so we would get, like, fresh vegetables from there. But as a kid, you don't really care. And you don't know.
Yeah.
And, like, even until, like, I met you, I didn't care. I mean, I was coming out of high school.
You didn't really have a reason to care.
Right. Like, why?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just eating. But after I stopped dancing, I mean, I didn't realize how much of a workout that was until I stopped. I did it from, like, 3 years old on. So it just, after high school, my body changed, and it was just hard to adjust that. So then I met Alex, and you weren't, like, you were gluten-free.
I was at the time, yeah.
But
that's, like, a whole...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you weren't really, like, crazy crunchy yet.
Or even scrunchy at that point. Like, yeah.
But, so then I met her, and after she had Boston, I feel like that's kind of when you switched, and then, like, I saw that, and I saw just, like, you having your kid, and just, which you'll get into that, I'm kind of just showing my side, but how things affected him, and it really, like, even though I don't have kids, like, seeing people close to me have kids really has opened my eyes on new things, and kind of
and having firsthand accounts makes a huge difference, because, like, the only other person in my life at that time that was having kids was Courtney.
Yeah.
And, you know, she had been pregnant while she was here, but, like, we hardly ever saw each other, at least not as much as we did when, you know, so, like, that was the only other person I had when I was pregnant was her, and she's lived that way her whole life too. So, like, you know, but not as much as she is now. You know?
Yeah.
But having the firsthand accounts help, especially having people that have had kids recently, because times change so frequent. Like, obviously, but, like, way people do things and the things that are popular and, you know, studies and all those things change so much within having kids in even a year. Like, just or 18 months between my kids. Like, were so different. So
Yeah, so that kind of like, once she started looking into that, I feel like we kind of went on it together. And that's kind of where I started. So, I mean, you can jump off that.
Well, I just, like, I'm so grateful. I think I had this epiphany the other day. I'm so thankful that, you know, generally everyone in the salon is about the same.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that, you know, you and I are literally on the same exact wavelength. Like, I don't have to convince you one way or another. You don't have to convince me another way. Like, we are on the same wavelength when it comes to that stuff. So, like, you know, I know that, like, any advice that I give you for kids, like, you're probably like, oh, well, she's had 2, you know, like, you're probably gonna not take it with a grain of salt, but also I know that every kid is different, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up, you know, eating processed foods like most people in America. I didn't really know, like, but the thing is like, my papa had like this like huge farm, and I would go out there with a salt shaker and literally take a tomato off the vine. I have a scar on my hand from a tomato hornworm because those things are ginormous and they hurt. But I just, like, my idea of good food has always been fresh food. Like, fresh food, I'm not picky at all. And so food has always been, like, I always crave the good stuff, right? Like, but also, like, I'm a sucker for a sweet tooth. And I think also, like, you know, different traumas in my life, just like anybody else in the world, can start to rely on food and, like, have that unhealthy relationship with food. And I honestly think, like, everybody might struggle with that in some area of their life, but I don't think that, that's all I'm going to say about that. But when I got married, we went on our honeymoon, we went on a cruise, and I think because I didn't like the way that they had made the margaritas, I stuck strictly to beer, and I wasn't really much of anything else. I was like a novice drinker. Like, it was like some sweet wine, and obviously if I'm sitting in the sun all day, I don't want to be drinking sweet wine, you know? So I just, like, stuck strictly to beer. Well, I think paired with the stress of, like, going on the cruise, whatever, the last night on the cruise, we were at a comedy show, and I noticed, like, the inside of my legs were just really itchy, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, what if I got, like, some fungus from Jamaica? Like, that would suck. And so on the way back, we were actually on the plane, and I was, like, going to the bathroom, and because I was like, there's got to be something crawling on me. It literally felt like, so then I noticed, like, I started getting this, like, widespread rash on my legs, and I was like, this is so weird. And I still have pictures from it, but
oh yeah, I've seen them.
So we had to drive back from Dallas back to Northwest Arkansas, and all I wanted to do was take Benadryl, because I knew at that moment, granted, me now, I wouldn't take Benadryl, but, like, at the time, I'm like, I want to take Benadryl so bad. And I can't, because we're driving home and we're both having a hard time staying awake. But this rash gets so bad, it's like on the inside of my arm. Basically anywhere that's like that, like, thinner skin, you know, like the inside of your thighs and right here, like, it started getting, like, it didn't even look like there was no pimples. It was raised, but it wasn't like hives or anything like that. It was very, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. So I had no idea what was going on. Somebody was like, oh, it's folliculitis. And then somebody was like, oh, you're having an allergic reaction to something. And then, you know, you need to take X, Y, and Z. I'd literally taken everything. Nothing worked. So, it was getting to the point where I was at work at our first salon. I was at work and I could not work. Like, I was, like, itching so bad. It was bruising from where I was itching it so bad. And so I finally decided, I was like, I'm going to go to urgent care. I have no idea what's going on. Well, I'm so thankful that I went to the urgent care that I did, because the doctor actually knew exactly what was going on from the moment I described, like, hey, like, I drank strictly beer this entire trip. Like, I was not strict on anything that I was eating, whatever. So he actually said it was a wheat rash and that I probably needed to throttle back on the gluten, probably eliminate it completely because my body was just having a crazy histamine reaction. So I cut that out completely, and like literally within 2 days, the rash completely cleared up. He gave me a like prescription of some kind that knocked me out, but it was also like heavy antihistamine. And then he gave me triamcinolone, which is a steroid cream. And so I'm sure that contributed to getting better, but like I never had issues with it again. Got pregnant with Boston in December of 2019, and I started eating gluten again because I had heard like people who had allergies to some things, you know, like they didn't have to, or like lactose intolerance or whatever. So like I never had an issue even though I was reintroducing gluten again. And so had gluten all throughout my pregnancy, had Boston at 37 weeks because I got preeclampsia because I'm not going to say like formally, like that's what the doctor told me. But I definitely think it has something to do with the fact that my iron was so low and my heart was just like working so hard. My iron got down to 7, which normal is like 12.5 to like 15. I'm naturally anemic, so, you know, we're just sensitive flowers over here. But had Boston at 37 weeks, got induced.
I remember that day still.
I literally remember the day that I was like, I'm not gonna have a baby today. They're just gonna send me home. And like, I literally walk into the doctor's office and he's like, so like, do you have a way to get your things here? Because are you ready to have a baby? And I'm like,
no, I still gotta work.
Yeah. And then Chance is like, oh, we're doing this now? And I'm like, yeah. He said, you might want to call your husband. I'm like, okay. So have Boston, whatever. I get an epidural, and I ended up actually getting a CSF leak, which is a cerebral spinal fluid leak from where the catheter was for my epidural. And I basically like only felt relief when I was laying on my back for the first week. The first week of his whole life is a blur, and I feel so bad because like that's your first kid and it's a blur anyway, but like having that added on top of it. Also, not to mention, redheads, their clotting factor is like, or at least for me, I don't know about other people, but my clotting factor is like in the trash can. So that's probably why that like where that catheter was placed, it didn't like clot back up. Yeah. Because that's how they fix it, is they go in and put a blood patch on it. Mm-hmm. And it finally ended up going away. I went to the chiropractor like every day for a week.
So it fixed itself?
It fixed itself, yeah. And so that was really traumatic. I freaking hated that. It was the worst headache. Like, it's worse than a migraine. Because basically that spinal fluid that's like cushioning your brain is like leaking out, right? And I like, it literally was just worst headache ever. So anyway, I told myself, I was like, from this point, like, I don't know if we're, gonna have any more kids soon, but like, I really don't want another epidural. And,
for that reason.
Mm-hmm. So I, Boston, he didn't pass his hearing test from the moment he came out. And I was like, there's something wrong here. Like, my mom gut was just like, I don't feel like this is right. So we kept trying to get hearing test after hearing test after hearing test, and his ears were either too small or he kept failing them. So we finally went to an ENT, and the purpose was for him to figure out why he wasn't getting, like, why he couldn't hear. And the doctor was like, actually, he's never going to be able to hear unless we put tubes in. Because the way that he explained it, it wasn't like a typical, oh, he needs tubes because he had ear infection after. He had his first round of antibiotics at 6 weeks old. Like, he had an ear infection at 6 weeks old. Like, this kid, his gut is probably destroyed at this point, but like, we're working on it. But they're not supposed to, like, it's not recommended that you get antibiotics before 3 months. And he was like 6 weeks old. And of course, like, I'm just going by what the doctor's telling me. Doctor's like, yep, he's fine, but he's got an ear infection. Here's some amoxicillin. Here's some Cefdinir. Here's this. Here's that. And his poor little butt is just like tore up from the floor up. And I just feel so bad for him. And I just like, so we ended up going to an ENT. And the ENT was like, he's actually never going to be able to hear, and he's going to continue to get ear infections. He just made it seem like it was almost like a birth defect. Like, his ears just didn't develop and I guess that's what kids who have frequent ear infections have anyway. But, like, to me, it just seemed like the way that he was explaining it was never going to fix itself. So we got him tubes at 6 months, which normally they don't do that unless they're over 9 months old. So we got him tubes, and they did a sedated hearing test, and he also clipped his lip and tongue tie at that point. And because I was still trying to nurse, I was fully pumping. We had problems nursing. So I was like, going to try it, whatever. Didn't work still, but he passed his sedated hearing test. And to this day, I'm not convinced that it wasn't just because he cleared out all that fluid. I think he might be hard of hearing, and I think the scar tissue from that might be, I don't know. I think I might be coming across like I have a million and one problems, but this is just like a compilation of why I've gotten to the point of where I have, so I'm just obviously picking out the highlights of that. Mm-hmm. But I think it was about when so I got pregnant with Baylor when Boston was 9 months old. And I had went to my first doctor that delivered Boston, and I get in there, and they don't even do, like, granted, I had a healthy pregnancy, and I didn't have any history of loss, so, like, there was no red flags. But the first thing they said to me when I walked in was like, okay, so you're due on your flu vaccine, you're due on the COVID vaccine, and you're due on the DTaP. And I was like 8 weeks pregnant, right? And so they were like, do you want to get all those today? And I was like, I mean, that seems excessive. I mean, I knew I didn't want the COVID vaccine, but I was like, that seems excessive. Let me wait on that. And, like, I didn't even see the doctor that day, and I just did not feel very well taken care of. And I was just like, I do not feel heard. I feel like a number. So I think that that's kind of like what spiraled me into, like, figuring things out for myself, and also having Courtney as like that, like, hey, that this, because of this and this could happen, right?
Well, also, you were nervous because you had preeclampsia, and you didn't want that to happen again, and so, I mean, that's another reason.
Right, and it's like, I have to be proactive now for the future, and, so, anyway, I ended up going to my doctor that delivered Baylor. I ended up getting in with her, and fantastic, love her so much, would not recommend anybody but her and her clinic. It's so great. But I kind of just was like having this epiphany. I was like, this doctor also, okay, so Boston, because he couldn't hear until he was 6 months old, he had to have speech therapy. He didn't even start like babbling until he was 9 months old. And he was just like severely delayed. So I was like, okay, we got to do something about this. So I sent it in to his original pediatrician and was like, hey, I need this referral for speech therapy. They evaluated him. They already said he needed it. And his doctor was like, yeah, let's reevaluate this when he turns 2.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, what? He was like, he doesn't need it. It was a telehealth visit. He's like, he doesn't need it. Like, he's not babbling. He is 9 months old and he is not babbling. He needs speech therapy. He needs individualized care for him and all the things. Mm-hmm. And they actually evaluated him for occupational, speech, and physical. And he denied every single one of them.
Because when did he start crawling?
We went to the beach when he was 8 months old.
And he wasn't.
He was just then sitting up.
Yeah.
Just
Poor
then.
guy.
I know. And, of course, like,
sorry.
the doctor is like, oh, it's normal, kids move at their own pace, boys are slower. Like, okay, I get that to a certain point, but he could not hear, even in utero. Like, babies can hear. Mm-hmm. So he couldn't hear, even in utero, until he was 6 months old. Like, firm foundations are created in utero and in those first couple of months of life. And he didn't get any of that. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I told Chance, I said, this is a red flag for me. And I just don't think we can see him anymore. So I ended up getting with our current pediatrician, and I love her so much. She's so great. And she ended up calling in those referrals for Boston before she even met him. She was like, there's no reason. She actually has an autistic son, and I think that that's probably why she was so gung-ho for it. But she was like, early intervention is key, and the earlier the better. So, and if they're going to come to his school, why is he denying it?
Right.
So anyway, we moved away from that clinic and moved to our new one, and we love it. But I just like started becoming way more conscious of what I was putting into my baby's body, because he had been through so much already, and I did not want to further exacerbate any problems that he had. And he also had eczema really bad, and that's been, we're still dealing with that. But like I went gluten-free again, and I love it. I think that the perception is that it's really hard, but I don't eat a lot of processed foods anyway. So I think that helps, because like, you know, I don't eat bread. I don't eat, you know, Cheez-Its. I don't eat Pop-Tarts. I don't eat things like that. But, you know, and it doesn't feel like the end of the world to me. The one thing that I could say I miss the most is brownies. And if I have to have them.
No, the gluten-free brownies, though, they be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if I need them, I'm gonna go get those. You know what I'm saying?
I am also gluten-free, but I haven't been gluten-free as long as her. I tried. Like, we tried to do it together, and then I failed. Cause
I honestly think that
so
it's like a matter of, like, what your lifestyle looked like previously, about the amount of shift that you're gonna have to make. Because, like, I didn't eat a lot of processed foods. So, like, you know, also disclaimer, when something says, like, gluten-free, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better for you, because rather than the alternative, because they just typically replace that gluten with more sugars. So like if I'm trying to think, like gluten-free noodles, right? Like branded, or gluten-free crackers or pretzels or anything
gluten-free
like that.
Oreos, any of that, like just any processed gluten-free stuff. It's nice because it's like, if you can't have that, like every once in a while, it's like it's a treat. But it's still like, if you're looking to go gluten-free to like lose weight or whatever, like, or just like because you're so inflamed, because bread is very inflammatory, and so, or like wheat, or
I will say, so I have which my first doctor thought it was carpal tunnel, but then my new doctor, he's like, no, I think you just have a pinched nerve somewhere, but obviously inflammation is going to make it worse. He was like, I went gluten-free, started working out, and had, there was something else that was like, something that I had changed all in one month. Oh, I started my Adderall, like all in 1 month. So like my body was like freaking out.
no wonder your body was.
But, yeah. But I, when I went gluten-free, like I would do hair and my right hand would go completely numb. And I was like honestly contemplating surgery at that point, because like it's painful. It's not just like, oh, it goes numb and then, you know, oh wow, you have a numb hand. Like it hurts, it aches. So I since being gluten-free, I have not, I mean, there's some tingles, but there's not, you know, I noticed that the other day. When I foil, it is not like it was.
Well, because like every day we work literally next to each other, so I would hear, oh, hands numb.
I would like have to like sit there and like shake it out, like for blood flow.
But
to get
I
back
haven't
to
heard
it.
that recently, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But as of right now, like, so with my daughter, I was like, I don't want anything. I don't want anything. I don't want Pitocin. I don't want intervention. I don't want anything. I ended up having to get induced because Miss Girl over here is a planner, and I had a healthy pregnancy, no preeclampsia, but I had put people on my books at exactly 8 weeks. So I couldn't afford the time to go to 41 weeks. But I ended up getting Pitocin and had unmedicated delivery with Pitocin, which honestly, I feel like if I was to do it again, I would do it again like that, because my water broke at 8:15 and she was delivered at 11:15. So it was very fast paced, and I loved my experience. I if I could get pregnant again just to do the delivery part of it, I would go through childbirth again, just so I could like have that euphoric feeling of being like, yeah, I fucking did it.
Well, seeing her kids and how they have developed differently too, has kind of validated like my feelings towards it. And so like when I do have kids, I mean, obviously I'm going to value your advice,
Right.
and also my mom's advice too. Like kind of, I feel like we all kind of have that same thinking. So it's really nice. Like it's a good learning experience and all that. And I'm kind of teaching Chase a little bit about that. And it's all just about doing your own research. And I feel like
Not on Google.
I'm definitely have been a follower, kind of still am a little bit on things, but like kind of I think 2020 really opened our eyes on that, and realizing like my mindset before was like, well, you know, whatever they tell me, whatever,
because they have your best interest. That's the thing that people really need to get away from, in knowing that like Western medicine now is not, granted there's some people that are, but normally it's for padding their pockets, not for your best interest. There's very rarely do you find a doctor that's actually like about your health and about your like well-being, and you know, it's about their money and how much money they're getting.
Yeah,
It's a whole rabbit
we
hole.
won't talk more into that, but I would just recommend doing your own research, and then whatever you feel is best for you and or your children, both, whatever, then you do that.
Because as a mother, your decision for your kids is the best decision. Whatever that decision is, you are their biggest advocate, and you have to make that decision however you feel it's right. Your decision is the best decision, whatever it is. So,
and like, don't look at just like biased articles. Like, maybe look at both sides, or try to find more unbiased things that are straight facts.
It truthfully is based on how you feel and how you feel, what areas of your life you feel convicted in as a parent.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I was going to say something else. We have to, so Boston is gluten-free, and we have to really watch what he eats, because his eczema is so bad. But, so that's been kind of a shift. Now, he does eat a little bit more processed foods because he's a toddler and it's easy. But, you know, I really try hard to make sure we're, like, eating cleaner things. So, like, his processed foods come from Aldi. And if you didn't know, Aldi believes in, like, no GMOs, no any kind of dyes, or any MSG in their food. So they only put foods, so even if it's like a Cheez-It knockoff, it's still not going to have those things. But he can't have any gluten, so we have to kind of really watch what he eats. But it makes me feel better, a little bit more peace, knowing that at least it's coming from somewhere that has good traditional values when it comes to their food. Not into making people sicker.
So that kind of goes into scratching the surface on non-toxic things. I feel like that's becoming more popular nowadays, which is great.
The guy at church actually said that to me yesterday. The
What?
guy that works with me, he was like, you know, people are really, this whole EWG app is just popping off.
Which, it's great, but that also comes with more greenwashing products, which...
Whatever they want to promote, they're going to say is great.
Right. Greenwashing means, like, I guess you can put... I don't know, what's
Okay, so, this says... essential energy, clinically proven, no sugar, no preservatives. And then, like, somewhere on the can, it probably could say, like, clean energy, or, you know, clean whatever. And, like, greenwashing could be, like, if they put green writing, it doesn't have to just be green, but this is an example. Like, green writing on a Dawn dish soap bottle that has a leaf on it. Like, just because it has a leaf on it, but that could totally mean that it's not even any better. I've seen where regular products are, like, you know, rated at like a C, but then the greenwashed products is like a D.
So I looked up greenwashing examples. So it says, like, making broad sustainability claims without evidence, overstate their positive environmental effects in marketing materials, advertise products as eco-friendly but source raw materials from unsustainable suppliers.
Like, okay, another good example of greenwashing in general is produce, right? So, like, produce, you know, you go to the Walmart section and you get your bananas and your apples and your spinach and your broccoli and all the things, but you're, like, just grabbing it off the shelf, right? Well, of course, they're sprayed with pesticides and, like, all kinds of things and processed through facilities, and, like, that's why you have to wash your produce. If you're not washing your produce, you're not living life the right way. Anyway,
The wax coating that's on a lot of
literally
fruit.
everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, the preservative. You think, oh, I'm gonna buy organic, right? Because it's gonna be better for me, right? No. What that means is that they just used a different pesticide that's organic.
I've never seen these.
What is that?
So I just looked it up, and it says it's Coca-Cola Life, sweetened with cane sugar and stevia. Okay, so that might be a little better than just like regular
Cane
Coke.
sugar only goes so far.
Right, but you also have to look at what brand is making this, and then how big is this brand. And
You have to also, like, that's why I'm saying, like, this goes so far,
does.
this goes so deep, because, like, there's so much corruption everywhere in everything, and their main goal is to pad their pockets, and they're going to do whatever it takes. So they could say cane sugar or all natural or whatever.
Natural flavoring.
Yes.
It always
yes.
gets Chase. He goes, look, I got this, and it says natural flavoring. And I was like, oh, look at the ingredients. And it's like the whole bag. So if the less ingredients on your can or on your food, the better. Because, like, for us, I feel like we aren't as educated on, like, the actual wording of certain things.
I
But
know examples of, like, things that, like, I know, like, Cinnamon Toast Crunch has rat poison in it, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I'd have to look it up. But that's what we wanted to take the second part about, was
Right.
to, like, actually, like,
if your ingredients list is, like, this whole thing, and now this is just, like, the facts and all, but, like, these ingredients, I mean, there's not a lot, but it's still not the best.
I just urge everybody that's listening, whether you have a Coke in your cup holder or you're snacking on some Oreos, just go look at the ingredients list. If you don't know what those are, like, I know some natural things could have a more complicated name, but like baking soda, sodium bicarbonate.
Oh,
like, some people are
yeah.
like, I don't know what that is. No, it's baking soda. But if you don't know what those are, please look them up. Please look them up and see what they do to your body. Some of these things that are in our foods, there's, like, things like, what's another one that there's, like, a cross between, it's also in something, like, okay, there's a debate about citric acid, whether or not it's good for you or not. But, like, citric acid, like, burns things, right? Like, it burns and cleans things. But then, like, some people are saying, oh, citric acid is really great for your hair. But then some people are also saying, like, it's a preservative, so, like, it's bad. And, like, there's a whole bunch of controversy around citric acid. But I don't know enough about it, so I can't speak on it. But
people might be like, well, what I'm getting is fine. I'm
Okay.
living great, and I feel great. I would just maybe challenge you to, okay, the number one thing people say is first throw your laundry, what is it called?
detergent,
No.
fabric softener, sheets,
Yes, dryer sheets. Throw them away. They are the most toxic thing you can put in your household. Throw them away. I use those wool balls, and I scent them with essential oils, and it works perfectly fine. And, like, cleaning products, I've never, like, I instantly get a headache when I smell it.
Okay.
Smells.
So I saw a TikTok. I think I told you this one time. So the art of homemaking was actually called homemaking for a reason, because it's cleaning is an actual science, right? Because, like, in the 50s, we didn't have 500 different cleaning products to choose from. We didn't have a toilet bowl cleaner for this, and we didn't have a dishwasher tab for that, and a soap for this, and a soap for that. Like, we didn't have 200 different options, right? So this is where, like, corruption comes in, right? So, like, vinegar, ammonia, baking soda, lemon, like, all the things that, like, are, you know, essentially the bases, I feel like, for, like, cleaning products, like, you had to know as a homemaker in the 50s, 60s, whenever, you had to know not to
put
mix together, right? So, like, if you mix bleach and ammonia, you make mustard gas, which is incredibly toxic. So, like, as a homemaker, you had to know what that was, and that's why it's like the art of cleaning, the science of cleaning. But as societies came around, like, media and marketing has made you think that you need 500 different products for cleaning, right?
You don't.
And you need a toilet bowl cleaner, and you need a dishwasher, blah 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 blah, whatever. So
you're also saving money,
right?
Do you want to save money?
So for me, I don't have toilet bowl cleaner. I don't have like multi-purpose spray. I don't have
I make my own.
right. So we get the Sal Suds, right? And you can use that for laundry detergent, dishwasher. Well, no, actually, they said not to put it in the dishwasher, I don't think.
I use it to clean my fruit.
Yes. And then, like, my multi-purpose cleaner is that. And it's honestly the best I've ever used. And honestly, if you have not jumped on the vinegar bandwagon, vinegar is so good for a lot of things. I use it as laundry or fabric softener. It gets smells out.
Yep.
It's literally just so good, and it's like all natural. So
Mirrors.
yeah. Oh yes, mirrors for sure.
Yep.
Glass cleaner, it's amazing. So yeah, the art of homemaking, that was like the whole thing.
I started with cleaning products. So, like, obviously switching all your stuff, you don't, like, it's so much money to switch all your stuff to non-toxic. So I started, like, slowly switching, like, cleaning products, because I noticed, like, especially in my bathroom, when I would clean it, like, I would get the biggest headache after. And I was like, this should not be normal.
Artificial
like,
fragrance.
I'm like
yeah.
holding my nose while I'm cleaning.
Well, and that's why marketing agents, Walmart, like bigger companies, like they want it to be so easy for you to just grab that $5 bottle of cleaner. So
'Cause
you can
it is
have like
easy,
500. Yeah, like it is easier, but like also like what are those things doing to your body and hormones and all the things like in your skin. Like I cleaned the bathtub one time. This is how sensitive Austin is. Or before I even switched to everything. I cleaned the bathtub one time, put him in the bath, like after I had rinsed it out, but I guess I didn't rinse it out good enough.
Ooh.
And like it flared up his eczema like all over, and I was like,
Poor guy.
okay. So, you know, and there's like tips and tricks for everything nowadays, I feel like, but
Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram.
yeah, it can seem really intimidating, but that's kind of like why we're here. I feel like that's like, you know,
Yeah. But I challenge you to just like look into it.
If
You're interested, just look into it and start simple.
I was gonna say, but we're kind of running out of time. I was gonna say we could pull up a thing of like monster ingredients list versus this one, because this is carbonated filtered water, citric acid, natural flavor, sucralose, beta carotene.
Sucralose.
But
Terrible.
it says beta carotene for color.
Yeah.
So it's like descriptive, you know, for what it's used for. So
anyways,
just be mindful.
We'll on our Instagram we'll post like some pictures of like side by sides of like greenwashing and maybe some ingredient things, but yeah, so that's kind of just like scratching the surface of our lifestyle out of the salon.
Yeah, I mean, mine definitely did take up like half the episode, but it's fine. You know, we'll talk more about this, and you know, I feel like this is like a huge brand for us, even in the salon.
Yeah.
So, why we make decisions that we make. So, yeah. So, yeah.
All right, well, have a good weekend.
Nothing, dog. Get your soul. Just tell 'em ain't laying low.
Yay, toxic. Okay. Have a good day.
Bye.